how to do it. Let me show you how to do it. Hey guys, so if you own a VROD and I just want to show you guys a few things that you need to know if you're buying a used one, what maintenance it requires. So, there are a couple of things that you definitely need to know about this VROD. Great engine, it's an amazing bike, but there are some maintenance items that you need to be aware of. Again, cheap things to repair, but let me walk you through it. So the very first thing that you want to look at when you're buying these bikes is the breather hose. So there are two breather hoses. There's a rear one and there's one for the front. So this is, once you remove, so if you're buying one, you better know that the gas tank is right here. And this is just the air box right there. So if you lift up the air box, basically, this is all that stuff is. So once you remove the air box, you'll see these two tubes, going from this canister. And one goes on the back, and they are prone to leak. So there you can see I have a leak right there on that one. And that's one thing. And then if you're replacing that one, if you have a leak on that one, then most likely you'll probably have it over here as well. Now what this causes is basically you'll start seeing some traces of oil, and you can see on my engine bay, it's kind of like stained with oil. So that not necessarily is coming from the valve cover. It seems normally, in a car, you would think that, hey, it's the valve cover that's causing it. But in this case, no, it's mainly coming from this. So highly recommend go ahead and, replace those. So that's one thing. I'm going to make a video on how to replace those, so you can watch it later on my channel. The other thing is you want to remove the covers from here and inspect the brake oil. So this is the brake reservoir .4, I think it is. Tells you right there. So yeah, .4. So sometimes there's no oil in there. Like right now, there's nothing in there, and that's mainly for the rear brakes. So my rear brakes right now they're that. So what happens is this leaks. So you want to change all your brake hoses. Basically, it's a short hose, goes all the way from here, and this is your master cylinder right there. So highly recommend go ahead and replace this hose right there that goes all the way to the master cylinder, and the one that goes from there to your brake line. So replace that brake line. Also inspect your front ones. The front is right here, so you can check it right there. The other thing is radiator leak. Make sure you lift up this seat and that thing right there, the airbox cover, basically they call it. It's not really a gas tank. Once you remove that, you'll see the coolant reservoir, and you definitely want to remove it. So in this case, there's no coolant in here, but if you see right there, there is coolant in there, so which tells me there is coolant in the bike. It's just not holding it over here, so it's leaking somewhere. So now you got to find out where exactly the coolant is leaking from, and then inspect in there. Sometimes you will see traces, so just be aware of those things. Second thing is a lot of people do modification on these. They put exhaust, so always inspect the flanges right there. Those should be nice and tight. So here you can see this one is not, and it's loose, and in fact this nut is also loose. So I'm gonna have to replace this all. I'm gonna take it out all anyways. So there that is. And other than that, these bikes are pretty solid. Also inspect your radiator fins when you're checking the coolant, because sometimes on here you can see, like in my case, I see traces of coolant right there. So what happens is these are the top hoses for coolant, and sometimes they do leak, and they will leak into the radiator fins, and it'll drip down very slowly, causing that leak. Also, there are two fans for the radiator, and sometimes these fans don't work. So these are two connectors for the fans. I have them unplugged right now, but they're very easy to test. All you have to do is apply 12 volt. Just make sure the positive goes on the red and negative goes on the black. And all you have to do is apply 12 volts, and those fans should come on with it being disconnected. Now they are supposed to kick on by your computer on the bike when the temperature reaches I think it's 200 or 195 or something. Don't call me on that perfectly, but somewhere around there is that they're supposed to kick on. So if your fans are not kicking on, that's an indication that either the computer is not sending the signal to turn them on, or your fan itself is bad. So, you know, again, to test the fan is very easy, like I told you earlier. And here are the two fans. One is on top and one is at the bottom right there. So there it is. And sometimes what happens is your gear shifter kind of sticks, and you know, it might you just need to remove it and apply some lubrication on there, because you know that's what gets stuck sometimes. And make sure this is not loose. Like in this case, this is kind of loose as well. So if things are loose, you know, it causes issues, and if they're not lubricated properly, that can also cause issues. The belts, for the most part, are pretty good. You know, mine is a low mileage. I only have like 5,000 miles on mine. But if you have high mileage, then you may want to look into replacing the belt as well. But you can do an inspection on the belt, make sure there's no cracks and things like that. That's pretty much it. You know, not much to it. The gauge for the fuel is always bad. You know, that's an issue that has been, everybody knows about it. So I wouldn't worry about it, fixing it, because no matter what you do, it's going to come back. A lot of people fix it by replacing a bunch of parts, and it end up breaking again. So there is no point in my opinion. All you need to do is just reset your gauge, and every 100 miles just fill it up. Mine have a 5-gallon tank. I think different VRODs have different gallon tanks, so depending on which one you have, mine is a 5-gallon. So that's pretty much it. These are some of the fuses right there. And there's some connectors, because I have this tune. That's why you see this connector. This is the main fuse. So if you're working on the bike and you want to, you know, remove this fuse, this is probably the best thing to do, is remove this fuse before you start working on the bike. So you don't have to disconnect the battery. So this is the coolant. It's just a custom item a lot of people add. So just inspect for any leaks. This is your pump for the water pump. So also inspect, make sure there's no coolant leaks. Also check your brake pads. Sometimes the brake pads are worn as well. So I know I need new brake pads. Let's inspect the rear one. I definitely need new ones, as you can see, those are pretty worn. So they're very easy to spot. You can take a look. To inspect your rotors, just touch them. You know, if they're nice and smooth, that tells you it's good. But if you feel that they're wavy, that tells you that you may need new rotors. Mine is nice and smooth. That's a good sign. So that's it. I can't think of anything else. But anyways, if I missed something, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and I'll try to respond to you. And I hope this video helps you guys buying your VROD.